How you doing there? Well, welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Hey, Daf 35 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, friends. So here's the dealio. Daf Lamed Hey is, dude, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take, what's the deal with all these dafs? They've been super long. BavaKama is taking forever. But here's the thing. I want to get to the end of the parak. That's the thing. I want to get to the end of the parak and Daf Lamed Vav, which is why it's gonna take some time. Okay, I got a lot to do. Okay, and we also have some work to do on Daf Lamed Daled Mebei. Should I turn on the air conditioning? It's so funny because it's a little bit cold. But I'm a little bit hot in here. Maybe I'll turn on the AC. Interesting. Alright, so, okay, we're going to start in Daf Lamed Daled Mebei at the Mishnah, about, 15-20 lines from the bottom of the Daf. So we got a lot of work to do. We're going to get till about halfway through the Amud and Daf Lamed Vav and Aleph. So we got our work cut out for us. Let's do it. Alright, so says the Mishnah, Yesh chayv al ma'aseh shoro ufater al ma'aseh atzmo. Pater al ma'aseh shoro v'chayv al ma'aseh atzmo. Who could explain that? So yesh, let's read it again. Yesh chayv al ma'aseh shoro. So there's somebody who's going to be chayav for an activity that his ox does. Ufater al ma'aseh atzmo, but he will be pater for what he does, right? So if his ox does something, he'll be he'll have to pay. But if he does the same thing, he'll be Potter al ma'aseh shoro v'chayv al ma'aseh atzmo. And there's other scenarios where it's fakir, that he will be Potter if his shore does something, but if he does something, he'll be chayv. Ketzad. All right, give me some examples. Shoro shebiesh Potter v'shebiesh chayv. If his ox caused embarrassment to a fellow, so he's Potter. But if he causes embarrassment to a fellow, so then he's chayv, right? Boshes is if he causes embarrassment to somebody else, but not for his ox. Shoro shesime es ein avdo vipil es shino poter v'shesime es ein avdo vipil es shino chayv. So if he plops out his Eved Kanani's eye or his tooth, so the Eved Kanani goes free. But if his ox does the same thing, there's no ramifications. Shoro shechava ba'aviv v'imo chayv v'shechava ba'aviv v'imo potter. If his ox gored, right, caused damage to his father or his mother, so he is chayv. But if he causes damage, right, hurts wounds his father or his mother, so he'll be potter. Let's go weiter. If his ox lit a pile of stuff on fire on Shabbos, so he'll be chayv to pay for the damages. Whereas if he lit a pile of stuff on fire on Shabbos, he would be potter. And in both of these cases, when he wounds his parents, or if he lights a pile of stuff on fire on Shabbos, he's potter, because in both of those cases he's chayiv misa, and therefore since since he's chayiv misa, so he's going to be potter from payment. But if his ox did these things, so then it will be chayiv. Wow, I suddenly got really tired. Wait, let me take a break for a sec. All right, it says the Gemara, Tani Rababo Kame Derb Yechanon. It's interesting, I'm still using these noise canceling headphones, but I think maybe the noise canceling headphones are making me a little tired, because I guess I don't hear myself as good, but I hear myself totally fine, but I guess it's just kind of quiet, maybe is the point. But I guess quiet is good, that's the point. There's no distractions and stuff, but I guess I'm a little tired. Also, I think, as I pointed out, I think I project my voice differently in this scenario. But all right, Yeah, I'm taking deep breaths. I'm telling you, Rab Abo Kami to Rabbi Yochanan. So Rab Abo taught before Rabbi Yochanan. Kol mekalkel p'turin chutz michovel u'mavir. Oh, so when it comes to Shabbos, as we learned in Masechta Shabbos way back when, second Masechta that we learned together at Babylon Talmud, a long time ago. So that on Shabbos, mekalkel is potter on Shabbos, right? In order to be chayav for doing malach on Shabbos, it has to be a positive activity, not a destructive activity. Chutz michovel u'mavir. Except, however, teaches Rabbi Bo, except for two exceptions, which are chovel and mavir. Creating a wounding on Shabbos is a malacha, you'll be chayav, and burning. If you burn a pile on Shabbos, you'll be chayav for that as well, even though in both those scenarios it is destructive. Omerle, poke, toni, livro. To which Rabbi Yochanan says, Abo, get lost. Chovel u'mavir ain't a mishnah. It's nonsense that chovel and mavir you would be chayiv even though it's destructive. Mishnah. And if you're going to say that you're chayiv for chovel and for mavir, it's because chovel b'tzarich lechalbo, mavir b'tzarich le'efro. It's because you're causing a wound because you need the blood for your dog. Okay, I don't have a dog. I guess dogs need blood. So if you're causing a wound so you can give blood to your dog, so then so in that case it's a positive activity. It's not just destructive, right? You need the blood. Mavir b'tzarich le'efro. Or if you are making a fire because you need the ash. So in that case it's not merely a destructive activity, it's also a positive activity. You need the ash. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan explains that chovel and mavir are no different than any other malacha on Shabbos. If it's destructive, you'll be potter. You're only chayiv for chovel and mavir if there's a positive aspect to it. Tonight, we learned in our Mishnah, Shor shehidlikis hagodesh b'Shabbos chayiv, v'hu shehidlikis hagodesh b'Shabbos potter. Okay, so our Mishnah had said that if his ox lights a pile of stuff on fire on Shabbos, so then he's going to be chayiv for the ox. But but if he lights that same pile on fire on Shabbos, he would be potter. And it seems that right, he's at the same scenario that his ox would be chayiv, he would be potter. So it sounds like the context in which he's lighting the fire, the pile on fire, would be comparable, would be the same as the context in which his ox is lighting the pile on fire. Mashoru deloka boile, afunami deloka boile. So just like obviously, or at least the Gemara wants to assume, obviously, the ox, if he's lighting this pile on fire, he doesn't have any grand plans over here for what he's planning to do with the ashes, right? It's purely destructive. And we're saying that he's going to be chayiv for what his shor did, which means that also when we say that he's potter, it's talking about where it's purely destructive. And we're saying, V'katoni potter mipnei shu nidon b'nafsho. And we're saying that he's potter from paying because he's chayiv misa. And therefore, if he's chayiv misa, he's not going to have to pay money. So we see that even in a purely destructive burning, you're chayiv misa. So it sounds like that's a proof for Rabbi Bo, who says that chovel and mavir are exceptions to that rule. That in general you'd be potter for mekalkel. The two exceptions are chovel and mavir. And we're saying that if a fellow lights a pile on Shabbos, he's going to be potter because he's chayiv misa, even though it's destructive, just like his ox. If his ox burns, it's going to be purely destructive. His ox doesn't have any grand plans. Lo, nisht. Shoro dumididei, nisht, we compared the shor to him. That we're saying that the reason why he's chayiv the reason why he's potter when he burns the pile because he's chayiv misa is ma'ud kaboile. He needs the ashes. Av shor de kaboile, so his ox also needs the ashes. Tell me more. This sounds very intriguing. Tell me about this scenario where you have an ox who has a need for ashes. Why would an ox need ashes? So Amar of Avya ochov ma'iskin b'shor pikeach. Says Rav Avya, well, here we're talking about not just any ox. It's an ox who is a very intelligent ox. This is an ox that went to Oxford, and I know what you're thinking, that you've seen the recent videos from Oxford, and they were, quite frankly, a little bit underwhelming. And it's a little bit insulting maybe that this ox went to Oxford, but the truth is, when you're an ox, your options are limited. So this is where they would take him. So he went. So we're talking about it's an intelligent ox. He's an Oxford alumnus, and what does this intelligent ox do? She'oslo nishicho begabo, and he got a bite on his back. This Oxford educated ox got a bite on its back, and instead of taking oxys, v'kaboy limikalye, he wanted to treat it. V'igander be kutma, and he was going to roll around in ashes, and that would be a remedy to his bite. And how do we know that this was the intention of the ox? How do we know that this very intelligent ox he's burning this fire because he plans to use the ashes for a bite? How do we know this? Well, because immediately after he burnt the pile, he then proceeded to roll around in the ashes. Okay, so we see, so the Gemara wants to argue and to defend Rabbi Yochanan, to say that you'd only be chayiv for making a fire if there was a positive need for it, and that would be the scenario when there's a positive need for it, where the fellow would be potter from paying because he's chayiv misa, and where he'd be chayiv if his ox made the fire in such a scenario because he needs the ashes. Ika ki gavna. Is there such a thing as an intelligent ox who went to Oxford? There is Dautor Dahava Rav Papa. There was a ox by Rav Papa. Dahava Kaivin Lechinche, that he had a toothache. This ox had a toothache. So he went and he opened up beer, and he drank beer, and that healed the toothache. So we see it's a very intelligent ox that he knew how to solve his toothache. Okay, all right, fine, very very nice. So the rabbis say to Rav Papa, "Mimatzis omat shor dumya didei." Is it really possible to say that we're comparing the shore to him, to say that it needs to be where he burnt the pile with the sort of positive intention for the ashes? Vakatoni shoro shebiyesh potter, v'hu shebiyesh chayiv. The same Mishnah had said that an ox that causes embarrassment to a fellow, the owner would be potter for boshes. But if he causes embarrassment to a fellow, he would be chayiv for boshes. Shoro dumididei. And if we use that same logic, that we compare the scenario in which the ox caused embarrassment to a fellow to the scenario in which he himself caused embarrassment to a fellow, niskaven levayesh eichim bishkachaslo. Well, for him, he would have to have intention to embarrass the fellow. What would be a scenario where an ox has intention to embarrass a fellow? Kigon sheniskaven lehazik. Well, as long as the ox had intention to cause damage, well then that would be a scenario, that would be a comparable scenario to Amar Mai, because we had said, niskaven lahazik avopishlo niskaven levayish, that so long as a person has intention to cause damage to another person, even if he didn't necessarily have intention to embarrass that individual, but he had intention to cause damage, to injure that person, then he would already be chayiv in boshes. And therefore, in that way, the ox is similar to the fellow, that it's all about just having intention to cause damage, not necessarily intention to embarrass. Okay, fine. Rav Omer Masnisim b'shoygeg So Rava says actually that our Mishnah, where he's chayiv, well, we're saying that he's potter, but the shore is chayiv. He's talking about when he does it by accident. He burnt down the pile b'shogeg by accident. And it's like Tanit v'Chizkiya. The Tanit v'Chizkiya, we learn the Besmedrish of Chizkiya. Maka odom maka behema, right? The pasuk says maka behema yishamenu maka odom yumos. That if you injure an animal, so you have to pay for it. If you kill a person, so then you chayiv misa. So the pasuk is comparing maka odom maka behema. We're comparing killing a person to killing an animal. Mamake behema, just like when it comes to smiting an animal. There's no differences whether you killed the animal by accident, intentionally, or purposely, whether you had kavana, whether you didn't have kavana, bein derech yirida, the derech aliyah, whether it was a downstroke or an upstroke. When it comes to a behema, if you kill the animal, I don't care the circumstances, right? As we learned the other day, right? Whatever it is, if you cause damage to this animal, you're going to be chayiv to pay. Or if you kill this animal, you're going to be chayiv to pay no matter what. Where am I? So afmake odom, so also a fellow who smites another fellow, lo tachlok bo, make no distinction, bein shogeg lemezid bein miskaven she miskaven, whether you killed the person by accident or on purpose, whether you had kavana or you didn't have kavana, bein derech yirida derech aliyah, whether you hit him on an upstroke or a downstroke, lechayv mammon el foter mammon, he's always going to be potter from having to pay money, right? Because when it comes to killing a fellow, so since it's something that you're chayiv misa for, if you didn't intentionally be chayiv misa, so therefore because it's something that you're chayiv misa for, there's never going to be any payment in that scenario, and therefore in this scenario as well, right? When it comes to so Rava wants to say that when we talk about burning down the pile, so on Shabbos. So we're talking about he burnt it down by accident. We burnt it down by accident. So let's go weiter for a second. The rabbi said to Rava, can you really say that it's talking about where he burnt down the pile of b'shogeg? The Mishnah says that the reason why he's potter from paying is because he's chayiv misa. But if he did it by accident, he's not chayiv misa. So Achikama came into b'mezid nidon b'nafsho, since if he would have done it intentionally, he would be chayiv misa. Vehechi dami, in what scenario? The kabari le'efro. Well, for example, if he needs the ashes, then he'd be chayiv misa. So hashtana b'shogeg potter. So therefore, also even since it's something that if he would have done it intentionally, so then he would and he would need the ashes, then he would be chayiv misa. So therefore, even when he does it b'shogeg, he's also going to be potter from mammon. However, if his ox burns down the pile, so then he's going to be chayiv to pay. Okay, so it looks like we were able to explain this according to Rabbi Yechanan, who says that even by chovel umavir, you'd only be chayiv if it was a positive thing, like you needed the ashes. All right, very, very interesting stuff. Well, I am mamish, like so tired. I don't know why. I think it might be the headphones. Maybe because it's like so quiet with these headphones that make you get tired. Maybe I'll have to make another coffee or something after I'm done recording. But let's see how much longer it takes to record. We got a whole nother Mishnah to do. Friends, are you ready for another Mishnah? What if I snap? What if I just that's not a bad idea actually. Maybe I'll just snap to keep me awake. That's actually a really good idea. Can I snap and record? This could actually be really good. It could be super annoying for you, but it might be helpful for me. All right. Says the Mishnah. Sorry, guys. My apologies. I'll probably get tired of snapping soon. It's keeping me awake a little bit, but not really helping me record. Okay. So if you have, oh gosh, sorry guys, I think this is helping. But again, I think I'm about to get tired of snapping. But maybe there's like a quiet way to, oh, that's a good idea. What if that's a good idea. I could probably do it quietly, just like open and close my hands. It's not a bad idea. Open and close my hands. Should probably keep me awake as much as snapping, unless I need the sound. This is nice. This is nice. So if you have one shore who's chasing after, this is nice. Who's chasing after, maybe I could switch hands. This is great. Who's chasing after another, this is really good. Okay, so if you have one ox that's chasing after another ox, and the one that's getting chased gets hurt, gets injured. Oh, here we go. Gewaldig. So the Nizak, of course, accuses the Mazik, and he says, your ox is naughty. Your ox hurt. Your ox injured my ox. And guess what the Mazik says? You have no clue what you're talking about. Get lost. Your ox hurt himself on a rock. Get out of here. Shmendrik. So look, if the Nizak is looking to extract payment from the Mazik, prove it. He's got to bring proof that his ox got injured from the Mazik's ox, the potential Mazik's ox, and then if he could prove that, so beseder, so then he'll get his money. But otherwise, as we're going to see soon in the Gemara, it's a scenario of actually, I don't want to jump the gun, but okay, fine. They're having a disagreement about it. Okay, let's go right. Okay. Open, close. Why am I so tired? Okay. Okay, so you have three parties over here. You have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven's ox, Shimon's ox are chasing after Levi's ox. So Shnaim Rofim Achar Echod, there were two oxen chasing after one ox. Zeomer Shorcha Hizik, Zeomer Shorcha Hizik, Shneim Pturim. So guess what? Levi comes to Reuven and Shimon and says, people, my ox is injured. You guys need to pay me. Reuven looks at Shimon and says, he did it. Shimon looks at Reuven, says, he did it. Nobody's admitting it. So Shimon can't collect. Levi can't collect. Because both of them, each one denies it. So Levi's kind of stuck. But now, if both oxen belong to one person, right? So let's say it was two oxen chasing at, right? So Reuven owns both of those oxen and they're chasing after Shimon's ox. So in that case, right, the one who damaged, the ox that damaged Shimon's ox was definitely, right? They're both chasing oxes were Reuven's. So in that case, Shneim Chayavim, they're both Chayav. The Gemara is going to explain at the end of today's daf what exactly that means. Haya echad gadol ve'echad ka'in. Anizak omer gadol hizik v'amazik omer lo ki ele ka'in hizik. Echad tom ve'echad mur. Anizak omer mur hizik v'amazik omer lo ki ele tam hizik. Amosu mechaver olav arayah. Who wants to volunteer to explain this? So let's read that again. Second line of the Gemara of the Amud. Haya echad gadol ve'echad ka'in. So we're talking here about a short tam. And Reuven has these two oxen. They're chasing after Shimon's ox, and Shimon's ox gets damaged by one of by one of Reuven's oxen. So now, of course, short tam is chatzi nezek, and that chatzi nezek is paid migufo, right? Only up to the value of the shor mazik. So therefore, the Nizak says, look, it was the bigger ox that did the damage, i.e., to make sure that the Chatzi Nezek is going to be covered by, is not going to exceed the value of the ox. Whereas the Mazik says, no, it was the smaller ox. And therefore, if the Chatzi Nezek exceeds the value of the smaller ox, well then the nizak is gonna, not only is he not getting nezek shalim, he's only going to get as much of the chatzi nezek payment as the value of the smaller ox. So it's in the interest of the nizak to say that it's the bigger ox that gored, that caused the damage. It's in the interest of the mazik to say that it was the smaller. Right? It's in the interest of the nizak to say it was the bigger ox. It's in the interest of the mazik to say it's the smaller ox. So again, if both oxen belong to one person, we did that. If one of the oxen is big and one of the oxen is small, so of course the nizak says that it was the bigger ox that caused the damage. Whereas the mazik says, it was the smaller ox that caused the damage. Alternatively, if one of the oxen was a tam and the other ox was a shor amud, so obviously hanizak omer, the nizak claims muad hizik, that it's the shor amud that damaged, and therefore I'm entitled to full damages. V'mazik omer lo ki el tam hizik, whereas the mazik says nisht, it was the shor tam that caused the damage, and therefore I'm only paying half damages. So so again here, if the nizak wants to be able to receive the claim that he's making, that either it was the bigger ox or it was a shor muad, well then he's going to have to prove it. As we're going to see in the Gemara, I think we're going to see in the Gemara, maybe we have, there's a lot of, we're going to see a lot of ukimtas in the Gemara, so it's hard to tell what's what. So let's just leave it at that, okay? So let's just say this. If the nizak wants to collect what he's claiming, well then he's going to have to prove it. What happens if he can't prove it? Okay, so we're going to see different options in the Gemara. Okay. Where am I? Hayu anizokin shnaim echad gadol ve'echad koin. Mazikin shnaim echad gadol ve'echad koin. Hanizak omer gadol hizik es hagadol ve'koin es hakoin v'mazik omer loki el koin es hagadol ve'gadol es hakoin. Echad tom ve'echad muad. Hanizak omer muad hizik es hagadol v'tam es hakoin ve'amazik omer loki el tam es hagadol v'muad es hakoin. Hamutzi mechaver olav arayah. Did anybody get those examples? So let's read that again. Hayu anizokin shnaim. If there were two oxen that got damaged, not just one, there were two oxen that got damaged, right? Both are owned by the nizak, and there were two oxen that caused the damage, both are owned by the mazik. So again, so you are nizokin shnaim, if there were two oxen that got damaged, echad gadol ve'echad koin, one of the damaged oxen is big, the other is small. V'amazikin shnaim, and the two shor maziks, there were two shor maziks, echad gadol ve'echad koin, one big and one small, and we're assuming here that we're talking about a shor tam. So we're trying to figure out chatzi nezek migufo. Hanizak omer gadol hizik es hagadol v'koin es hakoin. So the nizak, of course, says, look, the big ox is the one that injured my big ox, and the small ox is the one that injured my small ox. V'amazik omer, whereas the mazik says punkt fakert loki elo koin es hagadol v'gadol es hakoin nisht. The small ox injured the large ox, and therefore the chatzi nezek for the large ox is only up to the value of the small ox. V'gadol es hakoin, and the big ox caused the damage to the small ox, so the chatzi nezek, sure, I'll have to pay the chatzi nezek, but it's going to be much less chatzi nezek than the chatzi nezek of the big ox, which the mazik is claiming was caused by the little ox. Okay, whatever. Basically, each one is trying to make the claim that would be advantageous to him. Echad tam ve'echad muad. Right? If one of the right, so if the nizak had two oxen, one was if the mazik had two oxen, one was a shor tam and the other was a shor muad. Hanizak omer muad hizik es hagadol v'tam es hakoin. So the nizak says that it was the shor muad who injured his big ox. So therefore, since it was the shor muad, he's going to get the full damages for the big ox, and the shor tam gored the smaller ox. So it'll get chatzi nezek, but on the lesser amount of damage. V'amazik omer, the mazik says loki, no punkt fakert ela tam es hagadol. No, the shor tam is the one who gored the bigger ox, and therefore I'm only paying half of the larger damages. I'm only responsible for half of the larger damages. Umuad esakoin, and the shor muad injured the smaller ox, so therefore I'm chayiv nezek shalim, but only for the smaller damages. So again, in these scenarios with the big ox and the little ox, the shor tam, the shor muad, and if the nizak wants to sort of realize the claim that he's making that is more advantageous to him, so then he's going to have to prove it. Okay, I'm opening and closing my hand to try to get like a rush of caffeine. There's caffeine in your fingertips. You just need to open and close your hands to disperse it to your brain. Okay. I'm going to have to drink some coffee, I think. It's Friday, so it's probably okay to drink coffee in the afternoon. Let me take a stretch. Okay, so now we get to a very, very interesting sugya in my opinion. You ready? Says the Gemara. Omer B'chia bar Abba, says B'chia bar Abba, Zosomeris, this says, Chalukim olav chaverav al sumchis, that the rabbis argue on sumchis the Omar, that sumchis says, Momin amuto besofik, cholkin, bam, 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 puru, 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 pa, para, para, para. Omelei Reb Abba bar Mamel, Reb Chia bar Abba, says Reb Abba bar Mamel to Reb Chia bar Abba, Omer sumchis afilu bari uvari, does sumchis say even bari uvari? Omerli in, he says yes, Omer sumchis afilu bari uvari. Sumchis says even bari uvari. Who wants to tell me what bari uvari is? Okay, Bari and Shema. Bari is, you're making a claim 100%, and Shema is maybe. So we're saying that our Mishnah, right? The opening statement of the Mishnah, there is an ox that gores, right, that injures another ox. The Nizak says that your ox injured my ox. The Mazik says, no way, no how. It got injured on a rock, not from my ox. So we said, Amotzi mechaveru olav araya. If the Nizak wants to be able, right, wants to receive payment from the Mazik, so he has to bring a proof. So we're saying that's a scenario of bari uvari, right? The Nizak says, I know for sure that it was your ox. The Mazik says, I know for sure that it was a rock. So we said, Amotzi mechaveru olav araya, that if Shimon wants to collect payment from Ruvain, if the Nizak wants to collect payment from the Mazik, so then he's going to have to prove it. So now Sumchis, however, says, we're saying that Sumchis says that actually they would split it. Push it, nice and neat. Split it, they would split it. Look, you say, look, the Nizak says it was your ox, the Mazik says it wasn't my ox. What are we going to do? Split it in half. How much was the damage? $100. Okay, well, I'll swallow 50 of it. You pay me 50 of it, and that's that. So again, from the beginning of the Gemara, Omer B'chia bar Abba says, B'chia bar Abba Zosomeris, this indicates, Chalukim olav chaverav al sumchis, that the rabbis argue on sumchis, the Omer that sumchis had said, Momen amutu b'sofik cholkin, that in a scenario like this, where you're unsure, what the financial settlement for this is, split it in half. The Sumchis say that they split it in half, even when they're both making 100% arguments. I know for sure it was your ox. I know for sure it was a rock. Sumchis says even when there are both 100% sure in their arguments. And how do we know that our Mishnah is talking about where both the Nizak and the Mazik are 100% certain in their claims? The Katani ze omer shorcha hizik ze omer lo ki. because the Nizak accuses the Mazik, your ox injured my ox, and the Mazik says, low key, no way, no how. Right? So both of them are sort of making these strong assertions. Okay, fine. Maskiv lo Rav Pope. Oh, so now Rav Pope asks an interesting kasha. Are you ready, Babel on Talmud, for Rav Pope's interesting kasha? Midireisha bari uvari, seifanami bari uvari. Well, if we're saying that the Reisha is bari uvari, that when the Nizak says, your ox injured my ox, and the Mazik says, no, it was a rock, and we're saying that this is bari uvari, both are 100% certain in their claims. So Ema Seifa, well, what about the next part of the Mishnah? Haya echad gadol ve'echad ka'in. If one of the oxen, right, so in a scenario where there are two oxen, okay? In a scenario where there are two oxen, right, so the Mazik has two oxen. The Mazik has two oxen, and one of them damages the Nizak's ox. And so in that scenario, right, so one of the Mazik's oxen is big, the other one is small, and we're talking about shor tam. So therefore, it makes a difference if it's the big one that gores or the small one that gores, because the chatzi nezek is only going to be up to the value of the shor mazik. The Nizak claims that it was the bigger one that gored. The mazik claims no, it was the smaller one that gored. Okay. So again, if one of the oxen was big, the other ox was small. Nizak omer gadol hizik. The Nizak says that it's the big ox that gored. Umazik omer lo ki, and the mazik says nisht elo ka'in hizik. It was the small ox that gored. Okay. Alternatively, echatam ve'echad muad. If one of the mazik's oxen was a shortam, the other one was a shormud. Nizak omer shormud hizik. So of course the Nizak says it was the shormud that caused the damage, so that he can claim full damages. V'mazik omer lo ki, and the mazik says nisht elo tam hizik. It was the short tam that damaged. Therefore, I'm only responsible for half damages. Hamutz michaver olav araya. So we're saying that hamutz michaver olav araya. If the Nizak wants to collect either from the big ox or from the shormud, or as a shormud, meaning full damages, he's going to have to prove it. He's going to have to prove that his claim is correct. And we're saying that this is a situation of bari uvari. That the Nizak is saying 100% it was the big ox or the shormud, and the Mazik is saying 100% you're wrong. It was the small ox or it was the shortam. Hello, Maisi Raya, but what if the Nizak does not bring a proof? What if he cannot bring a proof? He cannot prove that it was the big ox or the shor muad. Shakil kide omar mazik. So we want to say that what happens if the Nizak cannot prove it? Well, then he's going to be forced to accept the terms of the mazik. So if the Nizak says it was the big ox that gored, and the mazik says it was the small ox that gored, and the Nizak cannot prove it, so he can't get the payment from the big ox, he's going to have to accept the mazik's turn of events. Is that the thing? The mazik's claim, which is that it was the smaller ox or the shortam. Where am I? Nema tavet yufta the Rabbi Bar Noson. So then let's say that this Mishnah is a kasha on Rabbi Bar Noson. Why is it a kasha on Rabbi Bar Noson? The Omar that he says to anochitim v'hodelo besorim potter. You hear the kasha? If Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me wheat. Ruvain says, I don't owe you wheat, I owe you barley. Now, wheat is more expensive than barley. Now, in this case, we're saying bari uvari. Shimon is saying, look, you owe me wheat. Essentially what he's saying is, you owe me wheat, I won't accept anything other than wheat. Ruvain is saying, I don't owe you wheat, I owe you barley. So says Rabbi Bar Nosson, in that case, Shimon doesn't collect anything, gunisht, he doesn't collect anything, because what he's saying is, I'm owed wheat, I'm not owed barley, I'm not interested in barley, I won't collect barley, so he collects nothing. But our Mishnah is not saying that, right? There's the big ox and there's the little ox. The Nizak is saying, I'm saying 100% that it was the big ox that gored. So according to Rabbi Bar Nosson, according to Rabbi Bar Nosson's approach, I would assume that essentially what the Nizak is saying is that I'm collecting from the small ox is not an option because that is not what happened. I'm telling you 100% that it was the big ox that damaged. So according to Rabbi Bar Nosson's logic, the Nizak, it's either all or none. If he can't prove that it is the big ox that gored, so then he won't collect anything at all. Yet we want to assume that what our Mishnah means is if the Nizak can prove that it was the big ox, so great, he can collect from the big ox. Otherwise, he's going to have to collect like the Mazik claims, which is that it was the small ox, which is a kash in Rabbi Bar Nosson, because based on Rabbi Bar Nosson, I would assume that it either, collect from the big ox or collect nothing at all. So the Gemara says, Ella bebari vishema. So rather, the scenario with the big ox and the little ox is talking about bari vishema. It's not talking about where the Nizak says 100% it was the big ox and the Mazik says 100% it was the small ox. No, that's not the scenario. So Rabbi Bar Nosson is talking about bari uvari. This, however, is not bari uvari, and that is why if the Nizak cannot prove it, so then he'll settle for what the Mazik claims. So now, Frekti Gemara, where am I? Dika'amar bari man, dika'amar shema man. So who's the one who's bari and who's the one who's shema? Who's the one who's 100% sure? Who's the one who's 50% sure? Inema dika'amar nizak bari. If we're saying it's talking about where the Nizak says, I'm 100% sure that it was the big ox, V'ka'amar mazik shema, and the mazik says, I'm 50% sure that it was the small ox. So akati lema tavativ to Rabbi Bar Nosson. Well, then it's the same question on Rabbi Bar Nosson, because meaning if the Nizak is the one saying, I'm 100% sure that it was the big ox, so essentially what he's saying is, I'm 100% sure it was the big ox, the collecting from the small ox is not an option. So if we're saying that if he can't prove it, he collects from the small ox, then it would be a kasha on, still be a kasha on Rabbi Bar Nosson. Ela fakert, de ka'amar nizak, shema v'ka'amar mazik bari. Rather, it's talking about where the Nizak is saying, look, ultimately, I'll tell you, I'm 50% sure it was the big ox. And the Mazik says, well, I'll tell you, I'm 100% sure it was the small ox. So in that case, we are saying that, look, if the Nizak can provide proof that it was the big ox, so collect from the big ox. If he cannot provide proof that it was the big ox, so then he will collect as if he can't prove it. So we're going to go based on what the Mazik says, who's saying that I know 100% it was the small ox. Okay, where are we? With the Seifa, Nizak, Shema, Umazik, Bari. So now, if we're saying then that the Seifa is talking about where the Nizak, right, so we're saying in this case, right, with the big ox and the little ox, we're saying that the Nizak is saying Shema, Umazik, Bari, and the Mazik is saying 100%. Reishanami Nizak, Shema, Umazik, Bari. Well, if that's the case, well then let's then sort of plug it back into the Reisha, which is the Nizak says to the Mazik, your ox injured my ox. The Mazik says, no, it got injured on a rock. So it must be talking about where the Nizak is 50% certain that that the Mazik's ox damaged his ox. the mazik is 100% certain that it was a rock. Ve'omar sumchis afilu beha de'itzrich lashmu'inon dilo. So would sumchis say even in this scenario that they would split it 50-50? Would sumchis say even here 50-50? Right? Meaning in general we say, right? If you wanna extract money from somebody else, so you have to bring a proof in order to extract money. So now sumchus is kind of being more, of a diplomat. I don't know. He's saying, split it. But would he even say split it and have the mazik have to shell out 50% of the money, even when the nizak is simply saying, I'm 50% sure it was your ox, and the mazik is saying, I'm 100% sure it wasn't? Even there, sumchus would say that you split it 50-50, and that you need, therefore, our Mishnah to argue on sumchus and say, no, hamotzi mechaveru olav araya? Lo. The Gemara says no. Save, Seifa nizak shema o mazik bar. Look, in the Seifa, where we're saying that if the nizak cannot prove that it was the big ox, then he collects from the small ox, like the mazik says. That's where the nizak is 50% certain and the mazik is 100% certain. Reisha, however, is nizak bari u mazik shema. However, the Reisha is talking about where the nizak is 100% certain. The nizak is 100% certain that it was the mazik's ox that damaged, that injured his ox, and the mazik is 50% certain that it was a rock. So in that case, Sumchus would say, look, if the nizak is 100% certain it was the mazik's ox, and the mazik is only 50% certain that it wasn't, so Sumchus will say, look, split it 50-50. And the rabbis argue and say, no, hamotzi mechaver olav araya is sort of, unshakable. It's, the rules are the rules. If you want to extract payment, prove it. If the mazik is saying, I don't think it was my ox, well then you're going to have to prove it. But if this is the case, then the Reisha and the Seifa are not similar. The Reisha is the mazik says Shema and the Nizak says Bari, and the Seifa is the mazik says Bari and the Nizak is Shema. So Bari v'Shema Shema uvari chad mil sahi. Bari uvari Shema uvari tre mileninu. To which the Gemara says, I'm just thinking for a second. Interesting. Sorry, I just had an idea. Akoponim. So, okay, so the Gemara says, look, Bari, Shema, Bari, basically, it's not considered being so different. Bari Uvari and Bari V'Shema, those are under Zachin. But to say that the Reisha is Bari V'Shema and the Seifa is Shema Uvari, it's basically the same thing, right? Okay, fine. Gufa, we had said earlier, Omer Rabba Bar Noson had said, To'ano Chitin V'hodelo Besorin Potter, that if Shimon claims that Reuven owes him wheat, Reuven says, no, you're nuts. I owe you barley. So Reuven doesn't pay anything because Shimon is saying, you owe me wheat, you don't owe me anything else. So my kamashmal tanina, but what's Rabbi Bar Noson teaching us? At the end of the day, we have a Mishnah that says, To'anochitin v'hodalo besorin, if Shimon makes a claim against Reuven for wheat and Reuven makes an admission regarding barley, Potter, okay, so it's going to be Potter, that has to do with Modev Mikza Sataino. But anyways, okay, we have that Mishnah though there that says that it would be Potter Betzim. So Ime Osma Avamino, Potter Midmei Chitin, V'chai B'dmei Sorin. So I might think over there that he's Potter from paying the value of the wheat, but he would still be paying, he would still have to pay the value of the barley, Kamash Malon de Potter legamri tonight. So what Rabbi Bar Nosson is saying is that no, he's completely Potter. If Shimon says you owe me wheat, and Reuven says no, I owe you barley, so what Rabbi Bar Nosson is saying is that Reuven would not have to pay anything at all to Shimon because Shimon's claiming wheat, not barley. Fine. So now the Mishnah had the Sefer of the Mishnah talks about a scenario where the Nizak had 2 oxen and the Mazik had 2 oxen. Each had a big one and a small one. So we say, the Nizak makes a claim that the big one injured the big one and the small one injured the small one. The Mazik says Fakert, the big one injured the small one injured the big one. So he said, Amotzi mechaver olav araya. Hello, my siraya. But if the Nizak cannot prove it, shakal kedamer mazik. So then he'll have to accept payment like based on the Mazik's claim, right? That it was the big one gored the small one, and the small one gored the big one. Amai chitim v'sorim ninu. But shouldn't that be the scenario of chitim v'sorim? That, right? Basically, Rabbi Bar Nosson's scenario that if he can't prove it, he should get nothing. So the Gemara says Eina Chinami. Ra'ui litol, meaning if he can prove it, so then he can take it like he says ve'ein lo. But if he can't prove it, so then he won't get anything at all. So in the Sefer, we're saying that it's Dafka talking about Bari Uvari, and we're saying that it's Taka like Rabbi Bar Nosson, and he would not collect anything at all if he cannot prove it. V'atanya. But we learn in a Braysa Arezim Ishtalim ala Ko'im min Agadol v'Agadol min Ako'in. But it says in a Braysa that the Nizak can be paid basically like the Mazik says, right from the Kohen for the Gadol for the Kohen. Titofas. Well, that's talking about a scenario where the Nizak jumped the gun and took it for himself. In that case, he can keep it. Okay. Tonight we learn in the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, Echad Tam ve'Echad Muad. Hanizak omer Muad Izak es Agadol v'Tam es Akohen. V'Mazik omer Loki ela Tam es Agadol Muad es Akohen. Okay, so the final case of the Mishnah was that the Mazik had a short tam and a short muad. The Nizak had a short tam and a short muad. The Nizak argues that the Mazik had a short tam and a short muad. The Nizak had a big one and a small one. So the Nizak argues that the short muad gored the big one and the short tam gored the small one. The Mazik argues fakert. So he said, Amotzi mechaver olav araya. Hello, my siraya shaka kedeka amar Mazik. And if he doesn't bring a proof, so we're assuming that then he would go like what the Mazik says. V'amar chitim v'sorin ninu. But shouldn't it be like the scenario of chitim v'sorin that the Nizak shouldn't receive anything? So ro'elito ve'ein lo. So again, we say, look, if he brings a proof, so then he could collect. But if he doesn't bring a proof, then forget about it. Like Rabbi Bar Nosson, because we're talking about Bari Uvari. Okay. Fine. Where am I? We have learned in the Brisa that they'll be paid for the small one from the muad and for the big one from the tam, like the Mazik says. The Tafas is talking about a scenario where he jumped the gun and he grabbed it for himself. Okay, the Mishnah had said that if they both belong to the same person, right? Meaning, this is earlier now in the Mishnah, right? So we had said that if there were 3 parties, right? So Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and there were 2 oxen chasing. Reuven and Shimon's ox were chasing after Levi's ox. Levi's ox gets injured. He goes to Reuven and Shimon. Each one looks at each other, so we say Potter, because each one's claiming it was the other one. But if both of those oxen belong to the same person, so then we say Shneim Chayavim. So what exactly does that mean, Shneim Chayavim? Omne Rav mi Parzika l'Rav Ashi. Shmamina Shvarim Tamim Sheiziku. So when we say Shneim Chayavim, that they're both Chayavim, does this imply, so if we assume that they're both Tams, short Tams, so does this imply that Shvarim Tamim Sheiziku, that if you have short Tams that damaged, okay, so we're assuming that both of these oxen are short Tams, and we're saying that even though we don't know which one damaged, still, right, there would be payment. So Ratzimizagov. So it sounds like you can collect from either one, and even if one of them gets lost, we would still be able to receive the chatzi nezek. So no, here we're talking about shor muads, and that is why there would be payment, even though we don't know which one did the goring, did the damaging. Even muadin, if we're talking about muad, so ema seifa. What about the seifa of the Mishnah? Echad gadol ve'echad kohen. That if one of the oxen was big and one of the oxen was small, hanizak omer gadol izak v'amazak omer loki el kohen izak. The nizak says it was the big ox that gored. Right, the nizak says it was the big ox that gored my ox, and the mazik says no, it was the small one. Hamutzi mechaber olav araya. So the nizak's gonna have to prove it if he wants to get payment from the big one. Ibu muadin my nafkalei mine sovzov to make Torah ma'alya boy nishalume. But if we're talking about a shor tam, so then wait, what? Ibu muadin. I'm sorry, fakir. If we're talking about a shor muad, so then who cares if it was? Why does the nizak care if it was the big ox that gored or the small ox that gored? If it's a shor muad, so then he gets paid the full payment regardless of the value, the value of the ox. So Amar Le, sort of Ashi says Seifa b'tam and v'reisha b'muadin. Look, the gadol and the cotton part is talking about a shor tam, but the first part where we're saying shneim chayovim, that is talking about a shor muad. Amar Le Rav Acha Sov the Rav Ashi says Rav Acha Sov the Rav Ashi ibe muadin chayovim chayav gavmi b'ilei. But if we're talking about shor muad, so what does it mean chayovim, right? Meaning we said, right, shneim shel ishechot, so shneim chayovim, they, the oxen are both chayav. But if we're talking about a shor muad, then it has nothing to do with the oxen. The mazik needs to pay. It should be chayav gavim miboile. It should be chayav gavim, nothing to do with the oxen. Visu, and more so, my shneim. What does it mean that both of them are paying? The mazik needs to pay if it's a shor muad. So the olam b'tamin. So really, we're talking about a short tam. Rabbi Akiva and so Rabbi Akiva the Amr shut v'ninu. Of course, Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that when it comes to a short tam that gores, so then the nizak becomes a shutif, becomes a partner in the shor mazik, and therefore v'tam de isnu l'tavayu. Tilomotzi madche le. And the reason that the reason that the nizak can receive his payment is because they're dafka both here. So it's not like we wanted to say earlier that if one of them gets lost, he could still receive his payment. No. Dafka, we need both of them here. So shneim chayavim, they're both chayavim. As long as they're both here, so then he'll be able to receive his payment, even though we don't know which one exactly did the damage. But as long as the ox is still here, and I guess the nizak is a shutaf in one of the oxen, right? The one that did the damage, he'll be able to receive his payment. Have a lesson of the tavayu, but if one of them gets lost, matzu amalei zil isi raya the high Torah azkoch v'ashalim loch. But if one of them gets lost, and the mazik will say that look, prove that this is the one that's still here is the one that caused the damage, and then I'll pay you. But if you can't prove that, so then I'm not going to pay you. Sheesh, I wonder how long that daf was. Was that an hour? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But anyways, that was daf lamed hey Masechta BavaKama. We did 2 mishnayos. Yeah, just a bunch of oxen goring kind of stuff. Peace out.